Hello, people of the internet. Ian Alter, the Freedom Astrologer, once again here, coming to you with another video. And this time, let's start off with positive news and then go into a bit of a deeper and maybe more difficult topic. But first and foremost, 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Thank you very much, and really appreciate the support, really appreciate the love. And I want to say, for those of you who have been subscribed to this channel, they maybe know, when I hit 100 subscribers on this channel, I made a promise or even when I hit 100 subscribers, I gave away one of my ebooks for free, and I made a promise that once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I will give away 10 ebooks. So now that we've reached 1,000 subscribers finally, I'm going to, make do or make good on my promise, and I'm going to share 10 free ebooks. The book I wrote a while ago, it's called The Meaning Book. It's a mixture of spirituality, poetry, channeling. Basically one of my proudest of works, and I will give it for you guys for free. So the first 10 who will use the promo code in the description below will get the book for free. If you go to my website, go to the shop, enter the promo, and just download the book. Now, if you can make it, or if the 10 books are given away, before you get a chance to go to the website, no worries. As I explained before, once we hit 10,000 subscribers, I will give away 100 free books. Once we hit 100,000 subscribers, I will give away 1,000 books, and so on and so forth. And you can always buy it as well. But good chance to get a good book for free. Now this is from the positive side, and let's get into a more deeper topic today. It's a bit of a thing that's been on my mind for a while. I wanted to do a video on it, and I wanted to share some astrological indicators that can kind of be indicators that these patterns are prevalent in the person's life, or have been in the past prevalent in the person's life. And let's put two and two together here. We're going to talk about fear first and foremost, and then we're going to say what that fear triggers us into, or the person into, which is usually shaming others, and what does it mean, and what's happening in these situations. So a lot of us, growing up, were kind of one of the ways parents or grown-ups get young people or children to abide by the rules is to shame them. So because when you shame somebody, put them down with shame, it hurts. The person gets hurt, and it's very, very likely that the young person doesn't know how to handle it, doesn't know how to kind of stand up for themselves. And it's a quite an efficient yet painful tool to keep your children in check. I'm not saying it's recommended. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it should be used. I'm just saying that a lot of us growing up, still to this day, still I think running rampant in our society, is that way parents use shame and fear to kind of guilt and control children into abiding by the rules and kind of behaving. Basically, this is what this pattern is a lot to do with. Now, we're going to talk about a couple of indicators here. We're going to start with Virgo indicators. This might surprise you, but we're going to start with some Virgo indicators. So for those of you who don't know, Virgo is this little guy here, this sign here, or this symbol here. And this applies when you obviously have, I put this on this example, I put a lot of Virgo in the chart. I put the ascendant in Virgo, I put the Sun, Mars, and Mercury in Virgo. Obviously, this applies to you. Also, when the Moon or Venus is in Virgo, it's a very, very prevalent theme or topic I'm going to discuss with you now. So basically, when there's a lot of Virgo in a person's chart, there's a lot of indication that during the childhood, this person needed to be kind of almost constantly perfect. Otherwise, they didn't get love from the parents. So whenever they were not perfect, they either get scolded or kind of like being told off that, you know, you should do this and this should be better and you should do it even better. And the other side of this coin is, even this was the only, or one of the only ways for this person to even get a little bit of attention, a little bit of love from the parents, was to be constantly perfect. You know, perfect grades, perfect, you know, school uniform, perfect everything, perfect cleanliness in the home, for example, as well. Everything had to be as top notch as possible. So it's quite a difficult energy. I think that let's say the negative side of Virgo is quite a difficult energy, because it can be very critical. The parents can be very critical. The childhood home environment can be very critical, and that criticalness, you know, or that fear of that critical words or kind of energy coming towards that child or person is something that is keeping that Virgo constantly, or the Virgo person who has a lot of Virgo energy in their chart or life, is keeping them constantly on their toes, because when they're not perfect, they're going to be scolded, or when they are perfect, this is what they think: when I'm perfect, I will get other people's appreciation and love, because this was the only way they even got a little bit of that sweet nectar of love. Now, as you can understand, this is a bit of a, you know, not the easiest way to live for a person, and it's quite, you know, tiptoeing with that fear. Now, the second part, we discussed the Virgoness. Now, the second part that's important with this shame and fear here is Mercury Pluto hard aspect. First and foremost, by hard aspect I always mean opposition or square. In this example we have a square, Mercury is here, and Pluto, that guy, little guy here, hope you know, this is a square. So Pluto square or opposition. I have one here, this is an opposition. Pluto Mercury opposition. Now, a lot of, because I'm going to discuss it briefly, but Mercury is the words that we communicate, the ideas that we think. But in this case, it's very important to understand that these are the words that we use to communicate with. And Pluto is, or communicate with, sorry. And Pluto is our kind of like deep suppressed subconscious fears. You know, I always associate Pluto and Scorpio with shame as well. It's also our traumas, you know, hidden traumas, hidden pains, hidden wounds. And now when you put these two together, you can see what will start to happen. Now, Mercury, Pluto, in a hard aspect, opposition or square, this is an indication that this person was most likely shamed in their early childhood environment. And square, I'm just putting the square here once again. And that kind of like, because when a child uses or gets that pattern put on them by the parents, this is very often leads to them using that very similar thing in their childhood. So if you see somebody with Mercury Pluto square, that can mean that if they haven't healed, obviously if they haven't become aware of this pattern, it's very easy for them to also go into that shaming kind of, it doesn't always have to be with children. It can be with the partner. It can be with people outside. Still, it's very easy for them to go into that shaming part. And it's, I hope you understand that this isn't, specifically their fault or anything. It's because it was done to them. So it's very easy to go into it and very hard to come out of it, because when you get that much put on you at a very young age, you need to do, most often you need to let go a lot of these things to kind of start releasing it in your life. And one of the first things is almost becoming aware of it and starting to observe that pattern. If you have that in your birth chart, start noticing how, like, if something happens that is not to your liking, and maybe somebody behaves, maybe your child, maybe your spouse, maybe somebody close to you behaves in a way that you don't want, how do you start to kind of scold them or talk to them or communicate with them? Is there kind of like this, because Pluto is kind of like almost like a secretive, it can be almost like a manipulative kind of shaming put on the person as well. Like, why aren't you doing this? Like, you should be able to do this. Every time, like, I'm just giving examples. Every time you do something, it takes so long. These kinds of weird things that can be said. This kind of like twisting of another person's wound with kind of painful words. This is Pluto in hard aspect to Mercury. Now, if we put these two together, so you can use these individually, the themes I'm talking about, but if you put these things together, now that Virgo person is very, very scared constantly. Oh my God, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect. Now, if anything isn't perfect, what do you think starts to happen? If something in their environment isn't perfect, and they also have this Pluto Mercury square or opposition or conjunction as well, I will show you the conjunction later on, but if something now happens that is not to their liking, something triggers that kind of perfection, something is not perfect, so they know in their subconsciousness, or sometimes they don't know, but the fear is so deep, it comes boiling up because something is not perfect. So that in their subconscious mind means that now I'm going to be scolded, now I'm going to be some sort of pain is going to be inflicted on me. And now, in order to control the situation, and also to have it not repeat in the future or down the line again, they start to control and manipulate that person, that other person who maybe did something that was not to their liking. Maybe it's not even associated with it, but maybe that person is not even associated with the situation. But if they're there and if they're in their environment, it's very often the case that they put that energy on the person and start to scold them, because that fear and that pain is too much to handle. Now, that shame and fear that they're actually feeling within themselves is going right directly to the outer, whoever is in the outer reality. Sometimes there's nobody there and they, scream, can scream at things as well. So, hope this makes sense. I'm going to show you the conjunction as well. Where was the conjunction? The conjunction is here. Conjunction is when two planets are very close together. Hopefully you can see Pluto, Mercury conjunction can manifest the same way. Now, a lot of shame is associated with, like I said, with Scorpio. So whenever there's somebody who has a lot of Scorpionic energy, this is the symbol of Scorpio. There's a stellium here in the sign of Scorpio. Even more Scorpio here in this example. So whenever you see these kind of things, you can, at least make an educated guess And obviously later on, if the conversation is on the table and available and the person is open, you can ask like, were you shamed? Or if it's more of a closer person and it's kind of like happening from them to you, you can, you know, start to kind of ask questions from them, like, what did happen to you? Did something, you know, did somebody shame you? Are you afraid of this being not perfect? What will happen if it's not perfect to you? This is one of the biggest questions with this, for these people to ask themselves, what will happen to me if everything is not perfect? And the question the answer to that question is quite revealing. And I urge you guys to, when you have these patterns and you kind of you see these astrological configurations and you notice yourself in them, and in these patterns I've been describing, ask yourself this question: what will happen to me if I'm not perfect? What is the thing that I'm so afraid of that will happen to me? And that shaming part is also, I think this is the first and foremost part. The first and most important part is start to realize that you're doing this. Do you understand what this is actually doing? That you're trying to manipulate and control people with this? And, you know, sit down with yourself, like, be honest. Do I want to do this? Do I want to act like this? Because, you know, it does help when you're able to go back a little bit into your own childhood and see, okay, so this was done to me, so this is one of the reasons why I'm still doing. But it's, again, it's a habit. It's something that you're used to doing. It's something so automatic. So it just needs practice. And every time you start to do it, you need to take yourself out of it and realize that, oh, I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to use this technique on myself. I don't want to use this on others. I don't want to do this with other people. So I need to step away and say, like, hey, I'm like, this is one of the, like, the ideal versions. What can actually come out of that person when something triggers that fear, that shame, and they start to do it, is like saying out loud to some of the partners or people they're doing it with, or to themselves, is like, hey, I'm really scared right now. I'm really frightened. I'm really in almost like pain or trauma response, basically. And I kind of, that the pain is so overwhelming that I want to lash out, and I want to give this pain and basically to others, to the outside, so I don't have to deal with it, but it's still internal. It's still their own kind of fear and pain. So the solution is still to kind of say it out loud. Hey, I'm in so much pain, fear right now. I don't know how to handle it. And then to start breathing. Basically, it is start breathing a little bit, start being with the fear, start allowing the fear of you know, because remember, they're afraid that somebody's going to come and say they're not good enough, they're not lovable, or something. It's always one of those. It's always one of those. You're not lovable, you're not good enough, you're not perfect enough. That means, you know, you're not going to get our love. So this is what they're afraid of. Everything is not perfect, and this is one of the reasons, remember, why they're going into shame. So they need to be okay with that fear. They need to understand that this is what they're afraid of. And once they're okay and be in that moment, and they're able to be in that moment with themselves, with that pain, there's no need to actually, you know, put it out onto others. And although it is scary and it is kind of difficult to navigate, obviously, because these are, you know, deep and hidden themes, deep and hidden, you know, traumatic pains within a person. So it does require time, perseverance, you know, vigilance, courage to go into these matters. And hopefully the things that I discussed here kind of open that stuff up for you, and you start to notice these patterns within yourself and within your relationships. Maybe it's somebody who's doing it to you. You know, obviously it's quite hard. And I hope it helps. I hope you can kind of openly communicate, ask these questions from them if it's happening to you, or ask these questions from yourself, and really allow yourself to these answers to come up, allow these memories to come up, to kind of be cleansed, to be kind of released and understood. That in that way, this kind of automatic response to that fear that is coming up, that shaming, or from fear to shame, immediate reaction will start to subside, and you will start to see it as basically your own pain, and what is there to do with your own pain other than to experience and feel it and then release it. So hopefully it wasn't too deep, it wasn't too scary, it wasn't too crazy. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about it. Has this been your experience? What's been happening? How you have dealt with it? Is this still going on? You know, leave me some ideas there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe. Share the channel. Share the video. Thank you for all the subscribers. Get that free ebook if you still can. And see you again soon in another video.